Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English Pod. My name is Marco.
My name is Catherine, and today we're talking about things at the office.
That's right. We are at the office, but this time we are going to ask our boss or manager for a raise.
All right, so what is this word raise? Let's take a look at it in today's vocabulary preview.
Vocabulary preview.
All right, so we're going to ask for a raise. So if you are at your office and you talk to your boss and you say, I want a raise, what does that mean?
That means I want more money.
Okay, so I want a raise or increase in my salary.
That's right. So a raise is a thing that you ask for. And in this case, a raise means that you already work at the company, you already have a salary, and you want some more money each month.
Okay, so that's what we're going to be talking about today. Let's listen to this dialogue. Excuse me, sir. May I talk to you?
Bill, sure, come on in. What can I do for you?
Well, sir, as you know, I have been an employee of this prestigious firm for over 10 years.
Yes?
I won't beat around the bush. Sir, I would like a raise. I currently have 3 companies after me, and so I decided to talk to you first.
A raise? Son, I would love to give you a raise, but this is just not the right time.
I understand your position, and I know that the current economic downturn has had a negative impact on sales. But you must also take into consideration my hard work, proactiveness, and loyalty to this company for over a decade.
Taking into account these factors and considering I don't want to start a brain drain, I'm willing to offer you a 10% raise and an extra 5 days of vacation time. How does that sound?
Great! It's a deal. Thank you, sir.
Before you go, just out of curiosity, what companies were after you?
Oh, the electric company, the gas company, and the water company. All right, we're back. So now, why don't we take a look at language takeaway?
Language takeaway.
So the conversation we just heard is a conversation between a manager or a boss and the employee. And the employee says, listen, I need to talk to you about something. I have been an employee at this prestigious firm for over 10 years. So prestigious is our first word.
Okay. Prestigious is an adjective, right?
That's right.
And it means very respected, very well known.
Esteemed. That's right. So something that is prestigious has a good reputation.
Like, for example, some universities, like you hear all the time about American universities like Harvard or Yale, which are considered to be prestigious universities.
Or the Nobel Peace Prize is a very prestigious award.
Okay, so it's an adjective to describe something that's respectable, well-known, or esteemed, as you said.
Exactly.
All right, and what's our next word?
Our next one is not so happy. This is what we've been experiencing in the global economy this last year or two. It's called an economic downturn.
All right, so an economic downturn is something negative, as you said, so it means that the economy is not doing very well.
Right, so economy, economic, you know what this means, but in this case, downturn is the key part of this phrase, to slow down or to decrease. So a downturn is a time when less people are making money and less money overall is being earned.
Okay, so an economic downturn. Very good. Why don't we move on to our next word, which is negative impact.
So the thing working here is the economic downturn, and it has had a negative impact on our sales, on this company's sales. So a negative impact, as you know from the first word, is not a good thing.
Right. It's an effect, right?
That's
an
right.
effect, but that's negative, so it's not a good effect.
So I could say that, Marco, being late has had a negative impact on your work lately.
Okay. Or the opposite now. What if something is a good effect on something?
So, Marco, your hard work has had a really positive impact on this company lately.
All right. Good. So you can use it negative impact or a positive impact. All right.
Right. So impact, again, is just the effect that something has on something else.
And, well, the boss said that he agrees to give him a raise because, in part, he didn't want to start a brain drain. What's that?
Oh, this is a very common phrase you hear about countries. They have a brain drain, or they want to avoid a brain drain. A drain is the part of a sink or a bathtub where the water goes down.
Okay.
It goes away. And so brain drain means all the brains or intelligent people or educated people leave a country and go to another country. Or in this case, leave a company and go to another company.
All right. So for example, if all the employees at Apple, maybe they start to quit, or they start to move jobs and start to work for maybe Microsoft or Google, that's a brain drain, right?
That's right, because you're talking about a large number of people. Maybe they're all unhappy because they say that working at Apple's not very nice. So they all leave and go to this other company. The same is true with countries. You can have very, very well-educated people who, when they stop studying, they want jobs, they all look somewhere else. They go to America or Mexico or England.
Okay.
And so that's called a brain drain because they all go away.
Okay. So 5 great phrases right there and words for you. Let's listen to this dialogue again, and we'll be back to take a look at Fluency Builder. Excuse me, sir. May I talk to you?
Bill, sure, come on in. What can I do for you?
Well, sir, as you know, I have been an employee of this prestigious firm for over 10 years.
Yes.
I won't beat around the bush. Sir, I would like a raise. I currently have 3 companies after me, and so I decided to talk to you first.
A raise? Son, I would love to give you a raise, but this is just not the right time.
I understand your position, and I know that the current economic downturn has had a negative impact on sales. But you must also take into consideration my hard work, proactiveness, and loyalty to this company for over a decade.
Taking into account these factors and considering I don't want to start a brain drain, I'm willing to offer you a 10% raise and an extra 5 days of vacation time. How does that sound?
Great! It's a deal. Thank you, sir.
Before you go, just out of curiosity, what companies were after you?
Oh, the electric company, the gas company, and the water company.
This first phrase in today's Fluency Builder is one of my favorites. It's something that we say often when we're having a conversation, and we want the other person to just tell us what they're talking about.
All right, so the guy said, you know what? I'm not going to beat around the bush.
Or you could also say, please don't beat around the bush.
Okay.
So I'm not sure where this phrase comes from, but it means please be direct, or
Okay.
I'm going to be direct. I will not wait any longer to tell you what I'm talking about.
So if somebody is beating around the bush, that means they are not being direct. They're not telling you something immediately.
It's, like when a person is trying to think, but, has a hard time, and they're really trying to explain something, but, it's just, well, you know what I'm talking about. It's like that
Right.
time with that thing where he did that. Okay, this is really annoying. I know. It's called beating around the bush because you just don't say what you're thinking.
Right, exactly. So you don't say something directly. Now, our next phrase is to take into consideration. Take something into consideration.
Well, this is something that the young man brings up when he's asking for a raise. He says, you should take into consideration all of these great things I do. This means when you make your decision, I want you to think about these things. So consideration means you're thinking when you're trying to make a decision.
To consider. All right, so to take something into consideration, or you can just say to consider.
So I'm interested in buying a new TV, but I have to take into consideration the fact that I don't have a lot of money. That means I probably won't get a new TV. I have to think about these things when I'm making my decision.
Right. Okay, very good. And our last phrase for today. Towards the end, the boss was a little bit interested in knowing what happened or which companies were interested in him. So he said, just out of curiosity.
So this is something we say when we don't need to know something. It means that we would like to know because we're curious, we're interested, but not because I need to know right away what companies offer
Right.
you jobs. So this is a polite way to ask why someone did something. So for example, so just out of curiosity, Marco, what kind of shampoo do you use?
That is very interesting knowledge that you want there.
Well, obviously, I don't need to know what kind of shampoo Marco uses, but I'm curious because maybe I'm going to buy a new kind of shampoo.
So you can start your sentence by using this phrase, just out of curiosity.
Just out of curiosity. It's a great one. Listen for that again as we listen to today's dialogue one more time, and we'll be back in a moment to talk about getting a raise.
Excuse me, sir. May I talk to you?
Bill, sure, come on in. What can I do for you?
Well, sir, as you know, I have been an employee of this prestigious firm for over 10 years.
Yes?
I won't beat around the bush. Sir, I would like a raise. I currently have 3 companies after me, and so I decided to talk to you first.
A raise? Son, I would love to give you a raise, but this is just not the right time.
I understand your position, and I know that the current economic downturn has had a negative impact on sales. But you must also take into consideration my hard work, proactiveness, and loyalty to this company for over a decade.
Taking into account these factors and considering I don't want to start a brain drain, I'm willing to offer you a 10% raise and an extra 5 days of vacation time. How does that sound?
Great! It's a deal. Thank you, sir.
Before you go, just out of curiosity, what companies were after you?
Oh, the electric company, the gas company, and the water company. All right, we're back. So, interesting enough, he needed a raise not because 3 companies wanted to hire him, but because he needed to pay his bills.
Well, this is funny because he's not talking about companies, that's right, who are offering him jobs. He's talking about the gas, the water, the electrical company.
Right.
It was a very funny dialogue, but I think asking for a raise is very hard to do because you know that your boss is worried about money or it's a bad time to ask, but you want to ask because it's important that you get the right compensation for your work.
Right. And actually, it's important to have a clear objective when you want to ask for a raise. So, more or less what you want to earn, but plausible within the company. So you're not going to ask for a 100% raise, right? You can maybe aim for a 5 or 10%, and most likely you'll get it if you negotiate properly.
That's right. And sometimes a raise isn't just about money. You can also, like he did, ask for some time off. So he gets some vacation days or perhaps some training.
Or bonuses.
Or a bonus. So this all depends on the kind of negotiations that you make, but it's worth it to ask. So please let us know if you've ever had a good time or a bad time asking for a raise. It can be a very nerve-wracking experience. I know personally I'm very uncomfortable with it. But we're excited to hear what you have to say. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them for us on our website, englishpod.com.
All right, we'll see you guys there.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. The English Pod Audio Review. Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word.
Avoid the subject by talking about something else. Beat around the bush. Increase in salary. Raise. To think about something before making a decision. Take into consideration. Give with the choice of accepting or rejecting. Offer. The quality of being loyal. Loyalty. Let's try that faster. The quality of being loyal. Loyalty. Avoid the subject by talking about something else. Beat around the bush. Increase in salary. Raise. To think about something before making a decision. Take into consideration. Give with the choice of accepting or rejecting. Offer. Now say the word and hear it in a sentence. Beat around the bush. Stop beating around the bush and tell me what you came here to say. Beat around the bush. We can't keep beating around the bush like this, because sooner or later they are going to find out. Beat around the bush. He tried to beat around the bush, but his father knew better and forced the truth from him. Raise. He was so happy when he got the raise that he didn't stop smiling for a week. Raise. My boss just gave me a raise. Raise. Do you think we can afford to give a raise to all of our employees? Take into consideration. Can you please take our family's needs and wants into consideration before you decide to spend the rest of our money gambling? Take into consideration. Before you decide which employee to promote, you should also take into consideration whether their skills would be better used at their current position or in their new position. Take into consideration. We need to take into consideration how offering our employees a 15% raise will affect our finances. Loyalty. Many businesses rely on customer loyalty to survive, which means that they have to make sure they treat their customers well. Loyalty. My loyalty is to my country. Loyalty. His loyalty to the company is unshakable, so we can count on his vote. Offer. I am willing to offer you a salary 10% higher than what they are offering you. Offer. She offered her help to her sister, but her sister didn't take it. Offer. I would offer you something to eat, but I have nothing in my cupboards.
Hello everyone, welcome to English Pod. My name is Marco.
Hi guys, my name is Catherine.
And today we're going to be looking at another lesson as part of our sports series. And this time, well, it's a debate. Is it a game or is it a sport?
Oh, it's a sport. You have to work your mind.
Yeah, so we're looking at chess, a very old, very popular sport, very difficult to play as well.
It takes a lot of practice, and believe me, it's frustrating at the beginning, and I'm still kind of in the beginning, intermediate stages. But yeah, it takes a lot of practice, and it takes a lot of time to familiarize yourself with the rules.
Right.
So we're going to be learning a little bit more about the pieces and the rules today.
Okay, perfect. So we're not going to preview anything. Let's listen to the dialogue for the first time, and then we'll come back and talk about the sport.
Bobby, come here. Look what I got you.
What is that?
A chessboard. Daddy's gonna teach you how to play.
Cool.
Okay. Each player gets 16 pieces. You can be the white ones, and I'll play with the black pieces. Now in the front, you set up the pawns. Those are the least valuable pieces, and can only move one space forward. When you're about to capture another piece, it can move one space diagonally.
What about all these other pieces?
See this one that looks like a tower? It's called the rook. The one with the tall hat is called the bishop. See this little horsey? This is called the knight. It's a very important piece, so it's best not to let your opponent capture it.
And these two? They are husband and wife.
That's right. That's the queen, and that's the king. If the other player captures your king, he will say, checkmate, and the game is over. Doesn't this sound fun?
Nah, this sounds boring. I'm gonna go play Killer Zombies on my PlayStation.
All right, so the kid is obviously not very interested in learning how to play chess.
Not at all. You know, the arts of these kind of slower games might be replaced very soon by video games.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't really appeal to a little 9-year-old or 10-year-old instead of, playing something like this versus, shooting.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's a very great game. It's very difficult, like we mentioned. So we're going to look at the name of the pieces and the rules that are related to these pieces in Language Takeaway.
Language takeaway.
Well, the first one you might have heard before because this is a word that is often used in strategy in general. So the word pawn.
A pawn.
A pawn usually means something that is not very important that you can use to distract an opponent.
All right, so on the chessboard you have 8 pawns. So these are the ones that you have the most, but their movement is very limited. So
That's
they
right.
can only move 2 spaces forward on the first move, right?
Right, or one space after that.
1 space forward. And only when it's going to capture another piece can it move diagonally.
All right, so you can't just go diagonally. You have to go forward until you're going to take another person's piece to capture it and to go diagonally.
All right.
But pawns is funny. You can also use this word when you're talking about other things, like he used her as a pawn in his little game.
No.
So you want to make an analogy, you want to make a comparison from life to these games, you can use the word pawn.
Pawn. Very good. Now moving on to the other pieces on the chessboard. On the very far ends of the board, you have the rook.
Okay, you got 2 of these, and they
Right.
kind of look like towers from a castle. Mm-hmm. And it's they're very important pieces, and
Very
actually my
important.
favorite pieces, because they're not very important at the beginning of a game, but at the end of a game, boom, 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 you can do a lot of damage, because they can go anywhere in straight lines.
Right, so they can go forward, backwards, and to the sides, as many spaces as they want.
The whole board, if
The
they
whole
want.
board.
Yeah, so easy pieces to forget about at the beginning, but they're very important.
And now, next to the rook, we have the bishop.
Okay, this is very different from the rook because the bishop can also go anywhere, but they can only go diagonally.
Right. So only diagonally. They can also move 4 directions, but diagonally, right?
Exactly. So you can go forward and backward, but it has to be at a diagonal slanted line.
Okay. And now, next to the bishop, we have the knight.
Ooh, the knight. So he's the one galloping on the horse like those old stories of King Arthur we used to hear. But the knight can go in an L shape, and I've never
Exactly.
understood this. But
It's weird. So it can move 2 spaces forward and then 1 to the right or 1 to the left. Or it can move 2 spaces to the right and then 1 forward. So it's very strange, but it always has to move 3 spaces and in the shape of an L.
so I thought maybe he was the drunken piece. He can go forward a little bit, then thump thump. He kind of moves to the side.
Right, so that's the knight. It's actually a very, very important piece as well. And now the 2 main pieces maybe of the chessboard, the queen and king.
So the king is kind of sad. He can only move 1 space, but the queen is really the killer because she can do anything she wants.
This is interesting, right? Why do they make it like that? The queen can move as many spaces as she wants in any direction. While the king can do the same any direction he wants, but only 1 space.
I don't know.
I think there's some similarity between real life now. It's like the queen can do anything she wants and the king can kind of do whatever he wants.
Well, maybe it has to do with the fact that he has to stay put and represent the country, and she can move around and move behind the scenes and has a little bit more mobility.
Maybe.
Who knows?
So, but in the end, the most important piece is the king, right? Once the king is captured, the game is over.
Exactly. So let's listen to today's dialogue one more time and slow it down a bit and find out if the boy understood any of these rules.
Bobby, come here. Look what I got you.
What is that?
A chessboard. Daddy's gonna teach you how to play.
Cool.
Okay. Each player gets 16 pieces. You can be the white ones, and I'll play with the black pieces. Now in the front, you set up the pawns. Those are the least valuable pieces, and can only move 1 space forward. When you're about to capture another piece, it can move 1 space diagonally.
What about all these other pieces?
See this one that looks like a tower? It's called the rook. The one with the tall hat is called the bishop. See this little horsey? This is called the knight. It's a very important piece, so it's best not to let your opponent capture it.
And these two? They are husband and wife.
That's right. That's the queen, and that's the king. If the other player captures your king, he will say, checkmate, and the game is over. Doesn't this sound fun?
Nah, this sounds boring. I'm gonna go play Killer Zombies on my PlayStation.
All right, we're back. And now why don't we explain a couple of these phrases that we also use to explain the pieces. But let's look at some of these more in depth now in Fluency Builder.
Fluency Builder.
So, Marco, one of the first phrases that we heard was the word was the phrase to move diagonally or a diagonal line, and so the pawns can sometimes do this, and the bishop can do this. But what does it mean to move diagonally?
Okay, so basically a diagonal line is not a line that goes straight up, right? Straight up to the sky, for example, or to the side, right? It goes at an angle, so it's maybe going at 45 degrees or 30 degrees. So that's a diagonal movement or a diagonal line.
Exactly. The next phrase we have is very strange, and this one you might hear from parents or children.
He says a little horsey.
Little horsey. So, in many languages, we have ways of breaking down words or adding to words to make them sound cuter. And this is one of those cases. So, for example, little puppy or little kitty or kitten. These are words to make things sound cuter. So, in this case, horse becomes horsey.
Horsey. So I want to ride the horsey. It's a cute way of saying I want to ride the cute horse.
Mommy, I want to ride the horsey.
Exactly.
So baby talk often involves having these rhyming words. Mommy, horsey, doggy, puppy.
A doggy, exactly. Very good. So it's a cute way of saying something. And now when we were talking about the chess pieces, when another piece takes or gets a piece, you say it captures it.
Okay, we say capture because, well, maybe it's a bit nicer than killing it, but
Yeah.
capture means taking and keeping for yourself. So we have a very popular game in America called Capture the Flag.
Right, where you have to take each other's flag, right?
You're stealing,
You're
essentially.
stealing. So yeah, this is the term that is used in chess, to capture another piece. Sometimes, like for example, in Spanish, we actually say like to eat the other piece.
Really?
Yeah, you eat it. That's weird.
Well, we're a little bit more tame
Yeah.
in those English-speaking countries, but to capture is a very important phrase, and you're going to hear that in the news as well, because you can capture a person.
You can capture a criminal. All right, and the final word, and the way that you end a game of chess, you say checkmate.
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 So the game's over. Checkmate.
Well, there's two things that can happen at the end of a game, and well, only one thing can happen at the very end of a game. But you're going to hear these two phrases. One is check, and the other is checkmate. So check means that I can take your king if I want to. Move.
Right, it's in danger.
It's in danger. But checkmate is the end all. This means this is the very, very last part of a game where you cannot do anything. I've trapped you, and I win.
Right, very good. So the game is over when somebody says checkmate. Why don't we listen to this dialogue for the last time, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more about this very interesting game.
Bobby, come here. Look what I got you.
What is that?
A chessboard. Daddy's gonna teach you how to play.
Cool.
Okay. Each player gets 16 pieces. You can be the white ones, and I'll play with the black pieces. Now in the front, you set up the pawns. Those are the least valuable pieces, and can only move one space forward. When you're about to capture another piece, it can move one space diagonally.
What about all these other pieces?
See this one that looks like a tower? It's called the rook. The one with the tall hat is called the bishop. See this little horsey? This is called the knight. It's a very important piece, so it's best not to let your opponent capture it.
And these two? They are husband and wife.
That's right. That's the queen, and that's the king. If the other player captures your king, he will say, checkmate, and the game is over. Doesn't this sound fun?
Nah, this sounds boring. I'm gonna go play Killer Zombies on my PlayStation.
Pop quiz, Marco.
All right.
The word check and the word mate. They both have meanings in English, but put together, what is this? Where does this phrase come from? What could it possibly mean?
I have no idea. Why don't you tell us? Because I seriously don't know where it comes from.
Okay, well, this is actually very interesting because I looked it up and I had no idea either because we've always just said this.
Right.
And it doesn't really make sense. So I looked it up on the internet and I discovered that the game of chess is actually a very ancient game. Mm-hmm. And it did not come from England. It did not come from France. It actually came from Persia. Mm-hmm. And in Persian, there are some words that kind of became the English words checkmate that mean the king is captured or the king is defeated.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Okay. So that's what it means. It doesn't mean the king is dead.
No. It doesn't mean that he's dead. It means that he's been taken.
Okay.
And so over time, the Persian word went into Arabic, and Arabic became French and English, and then now we say checkmate.
Checkmate. Okay, interesting. This is a very interesting word, and I'm sure everybody that's listening has a different translation for it in their own language. I know, for example, that in Spanish, we would say jaque mate.
Jaque mate.
Right. So I guess like jaque is something's in check, it's in danger, and then mate kind of like kill. So maybe it's probably not translated properly because as you mentioned, it should mean defeated or captured, not killed. So listeners, why don't you let us know how you say checkmate in your language? Come to our website, englishpod.com.
And also tell us if you have questions about the things we talked about today, or if you want to share some stories of your own chess victories. Please get in touch with us on our website. Otherwise, you can email us at englishpod@praxislanguage.com. But until then, have a great day. Bye, everyone.
Bye. The English Pod Audio Review. Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word. On a diagonal, forward and to the left or right. Diagonally. A game in which each player moves 16 pieces across a board and tries to capture the opponent's king. Chess. The final and most important piece in chess.
King.
Make ready for use.
Set up.
A very powerful piece in chess.
Queen.
Very useful or helpful.
Valuable.
A useful piece in chess.
Knight.
To take.
Capture.
A piece in chess that can only move diagonally.
Bishop.
The weakest piece in chess, a person or group without much power.
Pawn.
Not interesting.
Boring.
A piece in chess that can only move along straight lines.
Rook.
Describe situation in which king cannot move.
Checkmate.
Let's try that faster. Not interesting.
Boring.
A useful piece in chess.
Knight.
The final and most important piece in chess.
King.
Describe situation in which king cannot move.
Checkmate.
A game in which each player moves 16 pieces across a board and tries to capture the opponent's king.
Chess.
A very powerful piece in chess.
Queen.
To take.
Capture.
Make ready for use.
Set up.
The weakest piece in chess, a person or group without much power.
Pawn.
A piece in chess that can only move diagonally.
Bishop.
On a diagonal, forward and to the left or right.
Diagonally.
Very useful or helpful.
Valuable.
A piece in chess that can only move along straight lines.
Rook.
Now say the word and hear it in a sentence.
Diagonally. Susan lives diagonally across the street from us. Diagonally. The bishop is a piece that can move diagonally as many spaces as it wants. Diagonally. Diane sits diagonally from me at work. Set up. Help me set up my new home theater system. Set up. We can't work today because the workers are setting up the network. Set up. We are setting everything up for the party tonight. It's gonna be fun. Valuable. His house was furnished with valuable antique furniture. Valuable. The witness provided valuable information which led to the apprehension of the murderer. Valuable. All my valuables were stolen from my home last night. Capture. Oh no! You captured my queen. Capture. I have captured almost all your pieces. You will lose. Capture. I can't believe the police finally captured that murderer. Pawn. Germania was an underdeveloped nation that was a pawn in international politics. Pawn. The pawn is the least valuable piece on the chessboard, but it is a very important piece. Pawn. He used Sherry as a pawn in his evil game.